For the Brown family, the journey west began as a desperate escape from violence. While the popular image of the Pioneer Trail often features well-supplied caravans, the Browns were part of a group forced to flee at gunpoint. In September of 1846, Samuel and Lydia Brown were caught in the final expulsions from Nauvoo, Illinois. Under the threat of having their home burned to the ground with them inside, they had to immediately abandon a 6-room house and flee across the Mississippi River. The suddenness of the exodus wiped out their entire estate. As they watched their farm burn from the opposite bank of the river, the only compensation they managed to secure for their home was enough material to make a single dress and an open-faced silver watch. Stripped of their assets, they spent the winter struggling through abandoned cabins and makeshift camps in Iowa. And right in the middle of this frozen, destitute landscape, on January 21, 1847, their son, David Brigham Brown, was born. The arrival of a newborn in a freezing refugee camp turned a difficult migration into a desperate survival mission. From his first day of life, David's presence forced the family to navigate 1,000 miles of trail while prioritizing the warmth and nourishment of an infant over their own recovery. It took the family 5 years of scraping by in Iowa just to afford the basic supplies necessary to cross the plains. By July 1852, they joined a wagon company leaving Council Bluffs. Because the wagons carried every pound of food needed to survive, there was no room for passengers. Everyone who could stand, including 5-year-old David and his twin brothers, walked the trail. Exhaustion made the pioneers highly vulnerable to disease. When the company reached the North Platte River in Nebraska, cholera swept through the camp. David's mother, Lydia, contracted the illness and died, leaving her family to bury her in a simple sheet beside the dirt trail. The loss broke David's father. Samuel was already suffering from severe rheumatism and physical exhaustion. Without his wife to manage the daily survival routines of the younger children, he was unable to provide the care or protection his family required. With Lydia buried on the trail and Samuel physically failing, the traditional hierarchy of the family evaporated. The trail had removed the parents as protectors, and for the Brown family to reach Utah, the children would have to become the primary caretakers. When the remaining Browns finally stumbled into the Salt Lake Valley, the entire responsibility for the home fell onto David's older sister, Emily. She was 15 years old. Emily took on the role of a mother, physically and emotionally raising 5-year-old David and the toddlers. While other girls her age were starting their own adult lives, she was managing a household of young brothers and a sick father. This requirement to grow up early extended outside the home. The territory was under martial law due to conflicts with local Native American tribes, meaning the family needed a strong physical protector to replace their father. That job fell to David's oldest brother, Samuel Jr. Samuel Jr. became a government scout. He spent years earning the deep trust of the local indigenous populations, becoming a crucial liaison with the native chiefs to help stabilize the region. But while herding cattle one afternoon, Samuel and a friend were mistaken for federal soldiers. A group of renegade warriors opened fire, killing them both. It was a tragic accident. The shooters had unknowingly killed a man they considered a friend, and the loss left the family without its primary protector. The migration had cost them their mother, and the subsequent settlement had cost them their eldest brother. These losses meant that the survival of the remaining children was no longer just a matter of personal growth, but a debt they owed to those who had died trying to keep them safe. 2 decades later, David Brigham Brown had built a life of his own. At 25, he was newly married and running a successful independent farm up in Gentile Valley, Idaho. He had finally secured the stability his family had sought since leaving Nauvoo. But back in Utah, the safety net was failing. Emily had 12 children of her own. Her husband had left, and she was struggling to care for their now fully crippled elderly father. David chose to walk away from his own success. He traded his Idaho house and farm for horses and wagons, and he turned his family around to travel back toward Utah. He moved back to Payson, took his aging disabled father into his own home, and assumed the role of caretaker that his sister and brothers had held for him when he was a child. David had entered the world as an infant in a refugee camp, surviving only because his family chose to carry him across the plains. 25 years later, he repaid that effort by walking back the way he came to carry them.